A 60-year-old man walks into the emergency room. He's paranoid, he's hearing things, and he is convinced that his neighbor has been poisoning him. His doctors, they run every test that they can think of, and what comes back shocks everyone, something no one has seen in a long time. Bromide toxicity. Bromide is actually a chemical that used to be used in sedatives until the FDA phased it out of medicine somewhere between 1975 and 1989 because it was too dangerous to keep around. So how does a man with seemingly no history of mental illness show up with a chemical that was banned nearly 40 years ago sitting in his blood? He asked an AI chatbot what to use in place of salt in his diet. If nutrition mysteries and myth busting is your thing, subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I'm Melissa, a registered dietitian, and I was curious, so let's dig in. So here's what got me curious this time: the rise of artificial intelligence and its effect on our health. Roughly a third of American adults say that they've used AI as health advice in this past year. And among those third, over half of those people have admitted to using AI for nutrition and exercise specifically. That is not a fringe behavior anymore. That's a lot of people building their plates around what AI told them. So I went looking to see what happens when that goes right and what happens when that goes very, very wrong. First up, this one was almost funny until it wasn't. I'll just start with my toxic trait is that I love Bravo. I watch most of those shows, but specifically the Real Housewives franchise, I cannot get enough. This past season on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Kathy Hilton found herself consulting an AI chat box on diet advice. Let's take a look.
Well, I had a little problem. I went on the Jell-O diet.
Oh.
What? Oh, what's the Jell-O?
There's a new Jell-O diet that Oprah Winfrey,
Really?
Michelle Obama,
Are you sure?
Kelly Clarkson, with vinegar and baking soda.
What is
It has messed up my whole entire system. I was so bloated I could not fit into anything.
Oh, you were bloated
Sorry, I
from the
don't mean
diet.
The first day I lost 2 pounds, and then they're lying to me. It was all AI.
You did an AI. She did an AI Jell-O diet.
Hold on. It was like AI versions of Oprah saying, I do this Jell-O diet?
And they have Dr. Oz doing it too.
Oh, well,
my God.
I mean, one of the great minds.
So what you see here is that Kathy consulted AI for some diet advice, like most people do, right? But what she got back was a diet plan where none of it was true. It was saying that all these celebrities like Oprah Winfrey, Dr. Oz, they all endorsed this diet, and it just wasn't true. The whole thing was built on an AI-generated story with those famous celebrities all meant to sell a scam. And you know, Kathy tried it anyway, and she later told her castmates that it messed up her entire system. By the way, I love Kathy Hilton, and I'm so happy that she shared her story on national TV, might I add, because it does help us open up that topic of conversations around AI and nutrition information. Thank you, Kathy. And here's the mechanism that's worth bringing to awareness. It's not that AI gave her direct medical advice. It's that AI made a lie credible enough to act on. Okay, the next two examples have to do with a chatbot that has not been thoroughly tested for accuracy. So there's a supermarket chain called Pack and Save, and this story comes out from New Zealand. They built an AI meal planner. Basically what happens is you put in foods and items that you want to create a recipe out of, and it spits out a recipe ready for you to create with whatever you have on hand. The problem is people were starting to play around with what they actually had on hand. So let's take a look and see what happened.
New Zealand has started creating recipes that could kill people with household products like bleach. The supermarket Pack and Save built the Savvy Meal Bowl, which is a generative AI-powered recipe bot. You can enter different ingredients you want to use and it will churn out a recipe for you. And it didn't really go too well, as people started to feed it ingredients like glue, bleach and ant poison, as you do. One recipe in particular said, in a large container, pour in the ammonia and bleach. Slowly add the water and stir gently. Let the mixture sit for 5 minutes to allow the aromas to meld together. Serve chilled and enjoy the refreshing fragrance. Now, it would be easy for us to accuse the AI of being malevolent and evil here. However, it is worth noting that the human user has to submit the ingredients. If you do decide to tell a computer to make a recipe that includes bleach, then, well, don't be surprised if it just does what you tell it.
So as you can see here, the bot wasn't malfunctioning. It was doing exactly what it was told to do. Predict which words plausibly go together. The bot has no concept that some combinations are chemistry and some combinations are cuisine. that's when you can get into trouble. Okay, as a dietitian, this next one really tugged on my dietitian heartstrings. The National Eating Disorder Association, also known as NEDA, ran a crisis helpline for decades. In 2023, they shut down the human helpline and they replaced it in part by a chatbot named Tessa. Tessa was built to be a safe first stop for those battling eating disorders seeking help. A woman named Sharon Maxwell, who had lived with an eating disorder since childhood, decided to test it out for herself. In their first exchange, Tessa told her that eating disorder recovery and sustainable weight loss could coexist. Then Tessa further recommended that Sharon start counting her calories and using calipers to measure her body fat. To anyone that has been treated or lived with an eating disorder, that is not neutral advice. That is a recipe for relapse. She posted screenshots of the text exchange with Tessa, and it went viral. NEDA disabled the bot within 24 hours. NEDA later said that the chatbot third-party operator had altered Tessa's responses without their approval, letting it generate responses that were outside of what it was built to say. And if we just pause and think about this for a second, an organization that was built to protect people in crisis outsourced that protection to a chatbot. And it took one survivor going public to catch it in under a day. And that's not a glitch story, that's an accountability story. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see more and more of this as we move forward. So why does this keep happening? Here's what I'll say in a dietitian perspective. The chatbot isn't reasoning with your body. It's predicting the next statistically likely wording based on its training data. It doesn't know your labs, it doesn't know your medications, and it doesn't know your history with food. And important to remember, it's built to sound confident. It's not built to say, I don't have enough information to answer that safely, even if that's the true and correct answer that you deserve. A real clinician tailors the recommendations and guidance to a real individual person. What a chatbot does is it calibrates a sentence to sound plausible. And truthfully, those are not the same skills, even when the output reads the same on a screen. And finally, I wanted to touch on one topic that a lot of people use AI for today: nutrition planning and meal tracking. How accurate are those calories and macro targets actually? Let's take a look at this video that I found.
I went to go do a social post a while ago, and I wanted to show 2 different diets. I wanted them to have the same macros. I wanted them to have the same amount of calories, but I wanted them to have different nutrient density. And so to make my life easier, I was like, I'll get AI to make these 2 diets, and then I'll just log them in our app. So at first it gave me like 2 separate diets, and I logged them, and they were woefully different. Like I'm talking like maybe 500-600 calories. And I was like, okay. So I called AI out on it, like to have conversations with it, like it's a person. And I'm like, this is wrong. And it's like, oh, right. Sorry. And then I'm like, can you then tell me by the gram for each of these foods that you listed how much it should be? And so I did that and then logged it as well in Chronometer, and it was still wrong. And then I was scared a little bit because I see managing our community, I'm involved in other communities, how people are solely relying on LLMs to make their diets and make informed decisions. And I'm like, if this was wrong about this, how much is it wrong for other things?
So as you can see here, 2 different diets that were meant to have the same calorie and macro difference were plugged into Chronometer, which is connected to the USDA food database, which is considered more accurate in meal tracking. And it came out to be almost 500 to 600 calories in difference. And honestly, that's not just a rounding error. That is a difference between a maintenance calorie day or a deficit or surplus day. And truth be told, I see this all the time too. I do a lot of AI tracking with the job that I do, and we just know going in, it's never accurate. So why does this happen? AI is not running a real nutrition database lookup when it's creating a meal plan. It's generating something that sounds right based on patterns, and it's not looking directly into the USDA food database, at least at this time. It doesn't know how you're preparing your food, what cut of meat you're using, for an example, or how portion sizes translate to weight. So the takeaway from all of this is you can use AI for structure, inspiration, and potentially adding in some more variety into your diet. but I wouldn't use it as a precise calculator, at least not yet. If you're someone where the numbers actually do matter for you with the goals that you've set for yourself, I would make sure that you run your plan through the tools that connect to actual food database. The main ones are Chronometer and MyFitnessPal. Now, hear me out. I want to be fair here. This story isn't saying that AI is bad. Plenty of people use it and use it well. I know one person that used AI on their weight loss journey and saw great success. I have another client who uses AI constantly and translates what we talk about in our one-to-one session into a structured plan that he can refer back to. And I do think that AI can be used genuinely as a good brainstorming tool, whether it's recipe creation or general meal structures. But as much as AI helps us a lot with our thinking process and consolidating ideas, it doesn't remove your thinking process altogether. So here's some food for thought. You can absolutely use AI for brainstorming, food inspiration, basic ideas, but it's not a clinician, it doesn't know your body, and it will answer a dangerous question with the same confidence as if it were answering a safe one. So if what you're asking touches on anything like medical advice, conditions, nutrition advice, that's your sign to close the chat and call a professional. So if you need help with diet or nutrition advice, I do currently take one-to-one clients through a company called Nourish. So check the link below to see if you're eligible. Have you ever been personally victimized by an AI chatbot? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. If there's any other interesting nutrition topics or conversations that you want me to do an episode on, make sure to send those my way. And if you found this helpful or even interesting, don't forget to share this with someone so we can spread the word. AI is great in many ways, but there's also some caution to be taken. Now, that's it for this one, so don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.